Honest-to-goodness sabotage in Fremont. Tesla is pitching a tent. Autopilot engineers are working on blinker detection technology. We get a fresh glimpse at what Autopilot can see. And royalty got to drive a Model S. This is Tesla Tidbits episode number 417 for June 19th, 2018. We begin tonight with a story that sounds like it came out of Hollywood. Electrek has obtained a company-wide email from Elon detailing actual, for reals, sabotage at the Fremont plant. Here's a snippet of the email that went out. Quote, I was dismayed to learn this weekend about a Tesla employee who had conducted quite extensive and damaging sabotage to our operations. This includes making direct code changes to the Tesla manufacturing operating system under false usernames and exporting large amounts of highly sensitive Tesla data to unknown third parties. The full extent of his actions are not yet clear, but what he has admitted to so far is pretty bad. His motivation is that he wanted a promotion that he did not receive. In light of these actions, not promoting him was definitely the right move. However, there may be considerably more to this situation than meets the eye, so the investigation will continue in depth this week. We need to figure out if he was acting alone or with others at Tesla, and if he was working with any outside organizations. End quote. As if that wasn't enough, there's more suspicion elsewhere. From another email today, we get this, quote, late last night, we had another strange incident that was hard to explain. Small fire on the body and white production line. No one was in the area, and there were no injuries or significant equipment damage, but it was enough to stop the body production line for several hours. It could be just a random event, but as Andy Grove said, only the paranoid survive. Please be on alert for anything that's not in the best interests of our company. End quote. As I said on Twitter today, I wish I could say I was surprised, but I'm not. I absolutely would not put it past a motivated outside interest to intentionally sabotage Tesla, which is just an amazingly sad thing. Hopefully the damage isn't too severe and Tesla can move on toward its goals. On to some much brighter news at the factory. Those paying attention have noticed a massive tent structure being erected on the north side of the factory. We learned yesterday that this seemingly is housing a Model 3 production line, but today, thanks to Twitter user C. Faravar, we know a bit more. He asked Elon, quote, what can you tell us about the Tesla Factory 2.0 tent facility currently under construction in Fremont? When will it be online? What will it produce? Why build a factory in a tent rather than a conventional facility? Thanks, end quote. Elon replied, quote, needed another general assembly line to reach 5K per week Model 3 production. A new building was impossible, so we built a giant tent in 2 weeks. Tesla Team KFA. Gah, love them so much, end quote. He continued further down in that chain, saying, quote, they also poured the concrete and built the whole assembly line using scrap we had in warehouses, and it's way better than the other GA line that cost hundreds of millions, end quote. Now this is thinking outside the box. No time to build an entire building, and we need another line, so let's just pitch a giant tent and make it happen. This is the type of nimble action that could only happen with a technology mindset at the forefront. Obviously, I think we'd all like to see this line eventually encased in a more permanent structure, but for right now, this was an amazing on-demand spin-up of production capacity. Next up, we get some news from Twitter that Autopilot may be learning a new trick. User @C75 mentioned Elon in a comment. As this is a family-friendly show, I'm going to edit a choice word in the comment here, so this won't be an exact quote, but you get the picture. Quote, when merging traffic on an expressway, blinker detection in Autopilot would be great. Allow the driver to customize their mood on a sliding scale between jerk and doormat. End quote. Elon replied, saying, quote, good points, already mostly working in the developer software I'm driving. End quote. This will be a nice feature, as this is one of the most common reasons I disengage the system personally, though I doubt there will be any sensitivity setting here. The whole point of Autopilot is safety, and so I expect that Autopilot will simply let everyone over. Speaking of what Autopilot can see, famed Tesla hacker varigreen is at it again, this time giving us a look at what Autopilot sees while driving. This is obviously a more visual story, so please go check out Electrek's full article to see the particulars, as there's several photos and a couple videos too. varigreen in the past had hacked his Model S and was able to get a look at what Autopilot did. He'd saved that information, and now, having some help from Tesla Motors Club user Damien XVI, Damien16 I'm presuming, he was able to layer radar data on top of that info. But some of the niftiest new info is seeing a more current build, 2018.10.4, and how it marks things up as well. Where the older stuff had circles drawn that weren't necessarily tied to the size of an object, rather how close it was, the latter software shows bounding boxes that are more reminiscent of Tesla's full self-driving demo video that was set to paint it black some time ago. I suspect Varigreen's old car was AP1 hardware, and we're seeing AP2 hardware with the latter pics, as it wouldn't make a lot of sense to have changed that software and then changed it back. Go check out the visuals if you like diving into the geekery of the car. Finally tonight, a story from over the Atlantic in the UK, where the Daily Mail reports that royalty has now been behind the wheel of a Model S. Kimball Musk, Elon's brother, apparently has royal connections and spent some time with the Prince of Wales recently. During the visit, Kimball provided Prince Charles the opportunity to get behind the wheel of a Model S P100D, seen pictured in the article. Clarence House told the Daily Telegraph that, quote, "There is definitely a plan for us to incorporate electric cars into the royal fleet," end quote. It would seem that a Tesla is in the future for the Prince, as the Daily Mail reports that the Prince's head driver, Tim Williams, is believed to be planning a visit to a Tesla store to configure a vehicle. This actually is not out of character for the Prince, who appears to be somewhat of an enthusiast for alternative fuel vehicles in the environment. Kimball stated that the Prince was annoyed that people had been poking fun at him about his concern for the environment. In addition, the Prince's vehicles run on biodiesel, which is diesel fuel created from food waste, and he even had an Aston Martin converted to run on a wine-based fuel in 2008. I'm looking forward to having royalty join the Tesla club in what looks to be the near future. You can check out the links to the full stories in the show description. While you're doing that, please consider supporting the show financially through Patreon at patreon.com/Tesla Tidbits. Thanks a bunch to the super patrons out there supporting the show at the $10 plus level. They're John Waltauer, Drew Schuyler, John Waller, Mark and Sarah Thomas, Ryan Scarborough, Lee Sweet, William Henry Crew III, Dory and Steve Guberman, Bruno Kundici, Joey Boots, Ralph and Cheryl Waterhouse, Adam Raymer Brown, Megawatt Photovoltaic Development, Todd Sullivan, Robert Healy, Mitch Long, Zortech LED Canada, Morven Ogg, and Blake Thompson. If you can't support with dollars, please be sure to show your love with positive reviews and subscriptions on YouTube, iTunes, and other services across the internet. That's going to be it for today's episode. If you have feedback for me, as always, the best way to be heard is to tweet at Tesla Tidbits and use the hashtag AskTeslaTidbits if you'd like your question to be considered for the show. I'll see everyone back here again tomorrow. Until then, keep it charged and hit the road.